You looking for a cabinet for that CoinOPS vertical build? Yeah, look no further. Alright guys, here it is, the RecRoomMasters Extension 32-inch vertical arcade cabinet. So this replaces the 3/4 scale one that I've showed you guys on the channel before. Now they added some unique features that really are appealing if you're someone that loves these CoinOPS vertical images like I do. So it was lacking side buttons. On the old one there were no side buttons for flippers and nudge, and there was no way to launch the pinball if you were playing pinball games. You could do it, but you'd have to use different keys, so it really wasn't set up for pinball. This one is. So that's a huge shift between what we saw before. So now you have the flippers, you have the nudge buttons, and you have a launch button right in the front. The great thing about these cabinets is they use quality components in their control panels. It's all Happ components, so you got Happ competition sticks, you got Happ buttons, cherry micro switches. The thing is money out of the box. The other cool thing is it uses a 32-inch screen. Now I'm trying to keep this on a budget, so I'm using this budget PC. I couldn't get this to run in 1080p, unfortunately, with the budget PC, but hey, you make some compromises when you're on a budget, and I'm okay with it. It still looks really good. If you want it in 1080p, we're gonna have to talk about upping the budget just a tiny bit. The other thing that it has sort of an access door in the front. You certainly could add a coin door if you want, and I'll probably do that. I love it. I love these things. These are so cool. These vertical images from CoinOPS are changing every day. There's pinball versus arcade, there's pinball versus arcade versus consoles, and that's actually what I loaded on here. As you can see, you've got Dreamcast, you've got Game Boy, you've got Sega Genesis, and you can add whatever else you want, and you've got pinball, the more important thing. So I'm gonna show you a little bit of the gameplay of this thing. We'll go through it. This is gonna be a basic 101 video, and I will do another subsequent video diving a bit deeper into the cabinet, but I'm pretty stoked, and I think you guys will be too. Let's check it out. All right guys, so I'm gonna do a quick introduction to pinball versus arcade versus consoles. So you can see, just like other CoinOPS builds, right now I'm on MAME basically, so it's all my MAME games. So this is a combination of horizontal and vertical arcade games, which is really awesome. So this does have that mix already incorporated into it. So if you're looking for things like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, those things are gonna be in here, as well as like some great shmups and stuff like that. Now, if I move over to my next section, you've got all your pinball stuff, and this is mostly FX3 stuff in here. So you're gonna have all of your FX3 pinball stuff. I will tell you this, you do have to modify the encoder board in order for the flipper and nudge and launch button to actually work. I'm gonna actually put in the description where you need to move the wires to, so you do need to move them. Unless you wanna do things in software, I just figured, hey, those buttons are only gonna be used for that, so why bother with software? So I do it in hardware, and I will have the mappings of what wires you need to move where. So when you're moving right along here, I actually added on Dreamcast. The reason why I did is because there's so many awesome Dreamcast arcade games. So keep in mind, this is not in pinball versus arcade versus consoles. You do have to add this as an add-on pack, but if you join the CoinOPS Discord and then you actually join backups, you can download this once you get pinball versus arcade versus console working. Now, as we go through here, there's also, this stuff is actually loaded on there by default. So Game Boy is actually loaded on default on the image. Sega Genesis is there already by default, so there's a pretty good selection of Sega Genesis games. And then you've got Super Nintendo as well. And then I think it goes back to arcade. So really cool. And these games all play really well. So out of the box, the MAME stuff will work with the stock encoder inside this RecRoomMasters. It's just when you're talking about pinball that things get a little squirrely. So I'll go over to pinball real quick. And you can play any of these pinball games, they'll all work awesome, but keep in mind, if you don't do the little modification that I'm gonna give you, certain parts of it won't work. Like your flippers won't actually be flippers. Now you could do it with T-tap connections. I decided not to do that. I just actually doubled up the wires where they needed to go. So I'll have, again, in the notes of the show video, you'll actually see. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, I am using kind of a cheaper i3 PC that I bought, but keep in mind, I wouldn't go that route. So the minimum requirements for CoinOPS is actually an i3 with 2 gigs of memory on a GPU. So this doesn't have a dedicated GPU. It's using like that Intel 5500, and it does share memory with the system memory, and this machine has 8 gigs of memory. So what I would suggest is you're probably better off just buying like a cheap, a cheap old Dell or something, and then putting, a low profile graphics card or something in it, like a 1050. You'll be more than good. I would recommend an i5 instead of an i3, just because if you're playing the more modern games, you can kind of do that. So, but the minimum requirements would be for CoinOPS an i3 with about 8 gigs of RAM, and then a dedicated GPU with about, I think it's 2 gigs of RAM. Usually if you meet those minimum requirements, you'll be okay. Okay, so I want to clarify something real quick about the control panel. So the control panel has what's called an IPAC2 encoder board. It has several modes it can be in. It can be in keyboard mode, direct input, and X or X input. You're going to want to have it on X input here so that it emulates an Xbox controller. So you're probably wondering, well, why do I have to mod it for the side buttons and the launch button? Because the button configuration actually these aren't actually mapped to the right buttons that actually are the right and left flipper and the actual launch button. And you can't actually change it other than these couple settings. So you'll see LT, RT, LB, RB, and then you could say LT, LB, RT, RB, LT, and RT. It's not the right options. So basically, and I'll show you why in a second. So if I go back to the game and I say resume game, all right, you're gonna see my flippers work, right? Here's my left one, here's my right one. Now, the question is, what buttons on the control panel do those map to? I can't remember, actually. Here it is, so it's these two. The problem is these 2 buttons in the configuration are not mapped to these 2 buttons. So what I'm doing is I'm basically just hijacking a wire from this button to this button, and from this button to the other flipper. Now, to launch the ball is actually the launch button, which is actually, I think, the A. Yeah, so it's actually A. So basically I've mapped A to the launch button. So this button does the same as this button does the same as this top button, and this button does the same as this button. And in order to achieve that, you can just T-tap in to do that. So there's a little bit of modification. It's not a big deal, but I just wanted to let you guys know that. So keep in mind, this cabinet was designed for other things other than CoinOPS, but I prefer using CoinOPS, so I just figure I'll hardwire it that way. So basically, in a sense, when I press, I already forgot. When I press this button, it's doing the same as this button. So these 2 buttons are sort of like Y connected to each other, and so are these. And like I said, launch, which would be A, is actually mapped to this. There you go. So again, left flipper, right flipper, right flipper. So you just need to do that. So basically left, right, launch. Now I didn't do nudge. I'll do that on the next video, but I just want to let you know. So you will have to do that. I'll show you the underside of this control panel so you can get an idea, and then I'll actually put how I wired things, because these have terminal connectors, so you're basically just doubling up the wires for these other buttons so that they use the same action. And that way, anytime you boot it up, it's always going to work. It's not a software solution, can't fail on you. It's just going to work every time.
All right, guys, it's final thoughts time. So what do I think about this 32-inch vertical cabinet by RecRoomMasters? This thing is by far my #1 vertical cabinet from here forward. I'm super stoked about this. It's a huge improvement over the 3/4 scale one. That one's great too, but this one was really like a great version 2 upgrade. It gives you all the things that you wish the old one had, right? It gives you the flipper buttons, it gives you the launch button, it gives you the nudge buttons, and that's all really great. Still great components, it uses all the Happ stuff. I just want to thank RecRoomMasters for giving me early access to it. It is available for pre-order now, and then it ships on July 22nd. So get in there if you're really interested in this thing, because if you miss this window, you're not gonna get in until the next shipment. That's how they do things. You can still order it, but if you miss that July 22nd cutoff, you're gonna be, held until the next shipment. So again, awesome. And RecRoomMasters does an amazing job packing stuff. I've never seen a company pack stuff so thoroughly. This thing, there's literally no way it could have gotten damaged. I mean, you could have tombstone pile drive the damn box and it would have been fine. So huge props to that. The other things I wanted to talk about on the PC front, I did use this thing I had laying around from a separate project. This i3 just didn't cut it. It can do CoinOPS in 720p, but if you need to go to higher resolutions, it just doesn't support it. And the reason why is that doesn't have a dedicated graphics card. It has the Intel 5500. That thing doesn't have a ton of memory. So what I would suggest is get an i5 PC, something that's cost effective, used or whatever. Get a 1050 graphics card or something like that, at least something that has 2 gigs of RAM, and you should be good. And you'll have a good experience with it. I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than I really love it. This isn't the last time you're gonna see this cabinet. We are going to do lots of videos. Anytime I do a CoinOPS build that's vertical, it's going on this thing, so we can check it out. There is that little caveat with the encoder boards. Keep in mind, you know, it's a DIY kit, and I get it. My only suggestion to RecRoomMasters is probably gonna be if it's possible to have an order option to order it as CoinOPS and they can wire it for CoinOPS, that'd be great. But I get why they do it the way they do it. They have to support other operating environments like Raspberry Pis and stuff like that. So, you know, it is what it is, but I do want to actually, you know, tell them about that. So maybe that could be an orderable option in the future. That's it, guys. What do you think about this? First of all, are you stoked on the CoinOPS builds? They're vertical. I mean, these cabinets probably wouldn't be as popular if it wasn't for builds like that. So Rec Room did an awesome job. Loving it. Really, really great. I got to give it 2 thumbs up. It's a very, very solid system. Great controls, great design, great quality all around. And there's really no negative downside, maybe only that I had to manipulate the encoder board a little bit. Now, the other thing just to mention that I didn't talk about in the video is it doesn't have options to put your speakers anywhere. So I am using the TV speakers for now. That is something they suggest. You can easily modify the cabinet to do that. On the other one behind me, you can see it has a sound bar. So that's always an option if you don't want to, you know, cut holes in the cabinet or anything like that. All right, guys, that's it. We're wrapping it up. So put your comments below. Want to know what you think about this. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy content like this. And also hit the notification bell so you can be informed of future videos just like this one. That's it for now, guys. We will see you on the next one.